Moria sat at her cluttered kitchen table, her new large-print spell book laid out in front of her. The title, Spellbook for Dummies, was accurate but might have stung her pride a bit, but she knew she needed it. This wasn't a book filled with potent brews or complex hexes. Instead, it was a how-to manual that broke magic down to its most basic components. Gone were the complicated spells and risky enchantments. This was Magic 101 step-by-step instructions on how to get things right. Moria realized that if she wanted to regain her former power, she had to start from the ground up. She needed to learn the process, perfect the basics, and from there, elevate her magic to something more powerful. Daniel Thorne, sprawled lazily on the windowsill, watched her with half-lidded eyes. "What's this then? A beginner's guide to hexing? Seems a bit beneath you, doesn't it? Spellbook for Dummies?" He uttered, "Can't get closer than that," he added. Moria glanced at him, unamused. "It's necessary. I've been overcomplicating things for too long. If I can master these simple spells, I'll move on to bigger ones. Besides, don't you want a little more magic in your life?" Daniel Thorne perked up at that. "More magic, huh? I suppose if you could conjure a feast for me every once in a while, I wouldn't mind. You used to make feasts all the time." Moria snorted, lazy as ever. "You'd have me work magic just to save you from doing any hunting? Why bother hunting when I have you?" Daniel Thorne replied smugly. "If you master this magic, you could summon mice on a silver platter. That sounds like a win-win to me." Moria rolled her eyes but couldn't help feeling a slight sense of determination. Maybe starting small was the answer. This new book would teach her the fundamentals of how to properly mix potions, how to align her intentions with her magic, and how to get her hexes right. Back to the basics, it was day after day Moria worked through the spellbook. The instructions were simple: how to brew basic potions, how to cast harmless charms, and how to practice hexes that did little more than change the color of a flower or make a candle flicker. The spells weren't powerful, but they were working, and that gave Moria hope. With each spell, she felt herself regaining a bit of the confidence she had lost. Her aim wasn't to stay stuck in these simple spells forever. This was just a stepping stone to more powerful magic. If she could perfect these, she could elevate them into something grander. Daniel Thorne, ever the lazy cat, had taken a new interest in her magical studies. He lounged beside her as she read the spell book, occasionally peeking over her shoulder with mild curiosity. "You know," he said one evening, "if you get really good at this, you could conjure all sorts of things. Mice, birds, maybe even a whole feast. You wouldn't have to worry about working so hard at it." Moria raised an eyebrow. "This is about you wanting me to feed you, isn't it?" "Well, you are my caretaker, aren't you? I didn't turn myself into a cat. Who knew cats were this lazy? Wasn't my fault." Daniel Thorne replied, yawning. "It would be pretty incredible if you could just whip up whatever I wanted." Meanwhile, on the other side of the village, Clever was working on something new. Moria had missed the excitement at the Chicken Town market this year, but it seemed like she hadn't been the only one absent. Clever, with his wife Medusa, their daughters Daleth and Little Red, and a very small mouse, had been working on transitioning their pumpkin-selling business into something bigger. Instead of hauling pumpkins to the market, Clever and Medusa had decided to host their own event right on their farm. It wasn't just about pumpkins anymore, it was about creating a whole new tradition. They planned to host pumpkin carving contests, costume contests, and even other fall festivities. The villagers were buzzing with excitement. No longer would they have to travel long distances or haul pumpkins across forests. Everything would be right there on Clever's farm, a place that had become known for its charm and warmth. Even Medusa, who had once been notoriously negative about everything, had started to come around. Winning her first pumpkin carving contest had given her a new sense of pride, and while she still had her grumpy moments, she was learning to enjoy the process. As for Moria, she remained unaware of the growing success on Clever's farm. Her head was buried in her spellbook, focused on mastering the basics. She had no idea that a new tradition was being born just beyond the edges of her forest. One evening, after hours of practicing simple spells from her new book, Moria sat back, exhausted. The The spells had worked, yes, but they were so small. A candle flickered to life, a flower changed color, but nothing felt like the powerful magic she craved. She flipped through the pages of the spell book, feeling a familiar frustration bubbling inside her. "These spells are nothing," Moria muttered, closing the book with a sharp thud. "What good is learning to change the color of a flower when I need real power?" Daniel Thorne, ever the opportunist, stretched out on the table and glanced at her. "It's a start. You'll get there. And when you do, remember to conjure that feast for me." Moria glared at him. "This isn't about you, Daniel Thorne. I'm not doing this to feed you." But deep down, Moria knew that Daniel Thorne had a point. These simple spells were a start, but they weren't enough. She had hoped that going back to the basics would help her regain control of her magic. But now, as she sat in her dimly lit cottage, she realized that these spells weren't going to get her what she truly wanted, and that was her lost wand, or her brother's skull to steal his knowledge, and the power that came with them. As the night wore on, Moria thumbed through the spell book, feeling more disheartened with each passing page. It didn't matter how big the print was or how simple the instructions were. Without her lost items, she would never be the witch she once was. In the distance, the sounds of laughter and celebration drifted over from Clever's farm, where the villagers were enjoying the new tradition he and his family had created. Moria's grip tightened on the edge of her spell book. "I'll get there," she whispered to herself, though the doubt was already creeping in. "One day, I'll get there." But as long as Moria was stuck in the past, searching for what had been lost, her future remained uncertain. And no amount of beginner spells or large print books could change that.